Hello, this is a track guide for Laguna Seca on ACC. This is one of my favorite tracks, always has been one of my favorite tracks. It's one of those tracks that historically I do really well at. So I'm making this track guide to help you see how I do the track, what feels best for me, and how I'm able to find the most performance out of it. Something you should note is that this wasn't on an optimum track. This was when the track was fast. So there's a couple of moments where I drift a little bit wide. That's not because that's the line. That's just because I had a little bit less grip than I was expecting at some points. So as we come up to start the lap, technically this little left-hander is turn 1, but we're going to ignore that and pretend that the actual turn 1, the first braking zone, is turn 1. So coming into turn 1, what you want to do is begin your braking kind of as this concrete begins so that you're fully on the brakes just after the line next to the 3. That white line on the right-hand side. You want to get your car all the way to the right during the braking because you're actually going to turn in a lot earlier than you think you need to. I tend to aim for this apex curb, so just missing that sausage curb, and the reason being is you actually want to run really deep through the first part of this turn. It's an extreme case of a double apex corner, so you want to run really deep through the first part so that you can get back on the gas as early as is humanly possible and open up the second part of that corner. So if you look at this, I'm barely even facing towards the second part of the corner yet. So I haven't even squared off and already my foot is flat on the gas. So yeah, you want to be on that gas really, really, really early. Try and clip, again, just miss the sausage curb on the inside. And yeah, be careful of not running all the way off the track. You do want to use all of the track available. So you can see on the exit, I'm all the way over on the right-hand side on the concrete. So you want to use all the track. But again, the really important thing through that first turn is open the corner up as much as is humanly possible. Now, coming into turn 3, what you want to do is brake just between the 1 and 2 board. So kind of at, I don't know what the distances are, but just between the 1 and 2 board. But you don't want to brake too hard because what you don't want to do is overslow going through this corner. So at the apex, you want to get as close to the sausage curb as you can, obviously without hitting that, and be very patient on the gas. So you want to get on the gas early. You can see I'm just about starting to get back on the gas before we get to the sausage curb, but you really want to be patient getting back on the gas because this is a very, very easy corner to get wrong. If you drift too wide, you can see on the exit, I don't think there's a whole lot more room there for me to go. But if you go too wide, you're touching that sand and you're spinning. Like, that's a very, very easy corner to spin at. I've done it in races before. It's a painful thing to do. So you really want to be patient getting back on that gas, but get back on it really early. Now, coming into turn 4, small dab on the brakes just before this 1 board. And again, don't overslow the car. The aim is to turn in as late as you can, because if you turn in too early, you kill your speed. This is a corner where you need to be focusing on your apex speed, on your minimum speed. So don't brake too hard. The point you should be turning in is right as the curbing on the left-hand side ends. You want to follow that curbing as you're turning in. And again, getting back on the gas early before you actually get to the sausage curb, but still being patient. You can see on this lap, I went a little bit wide, so I did touch the gravel and lost a little bit of time on that exit. Patience, but early. Be patient on the gas, but be early on the gas. Now, coming into turn 5, the goal here is to brake just about at the 2 board, if not a little bit before it. Trying to turn in at the ending of the curbing on the right. On this particular lap, I think I braked a little bit late, but the goal on the apex is you want to be on that curb on the left-hand side, again, without touching the sausage curb. Now, the important thing with this corner is that the apex isn't actually where the sausage curb is. It's closer to where the curbing ends, so where that white part is at the end of the curbing. So that's where you want to be on the apex so that you can carry as much speed as possible. And then again, early on the gas, but easy on the gas. You don't want to run too wide. You can see I'm really fighting the car on that exit just to get it to stay on the road, because that was a little bit aggressive because I did run a bit deep into that corner. Now, turn 6. This is probably one of the scariest corners on the entire track, because if you get it wrong, there's big consequences, but it's so satisfying if you get it right. So how do you get it right? Brake pretty much at the 2 board. So you can see I'm hitting the brakes just about at the 2 board, but again, you don't want to hit the brakes too hard. So I'm not even hitting 100%. It's just a small tap on the brake, slowly getting off the brake, and then slowly getting back on the gas. Just as you get to that sausage curb, you want to try and be foot flat on the ground. Fully on the gas at the sausage curb, that's the goal at least. And then you want to use as much track as you're comfortable using on exit. You can see on this lap, I'm pretty sure if I went like 2 pixels further to the right, that would have been an invalid lap. So use as much as you're comfortable using, but that's how much speed you want to be carrying, is that the car is pushing all the way out to the right on the exit of the corner. Now, coming into turn 7 and 8, the corkscrew. This is such a challenging corner. I mean, it's famous for being challenging. So how do I do this corner? The goal here is you brake just before the 2 board on the right. If that's a little bit difficult for you to see, you can kind of see where the skid marks begin on the track. So you can see that the tarmac itself gets a little bit darker, and that's also a really good frame of reference as to where to hit the brakes. On entry into the corner, you want to stay right, but not so far right that you hit the gravel. So as you're coming over here, you're trying to use that entire curbing on the right-hand side, but make sure you're not so far over on the curbing that you're hitting that little piece of gravel, because the concrete on the outside of the curbing just kind of ends. There isn't a transition area there, so don't use too much of the concrete that's to the right of the curb. What works for me as I'm entering this corner is to actually get off the brake just a little bit as you hit the very top of this hill, and then get back on the brake as you start going down. I found if I just keep my foot flat down, it ends up just unsettling the car quite a lot as you go over that hill. So this is what works for me. If it doesn't work for you, if keeping your foot flat down works for you, then do that. So how do you actually do this corner quickly? Something I've learned about this turn through a lot of trial and error is that you can actually carry quite a bit more speed through this left-hander than you probably think you can. Now again, on this particular lap, I ended up being a bit further to the left on entry than I would have wanted to be. I would have wanted to be a little bit closer to the curbing on the right. But when you turn in, the aim here is to cut as much of this first corner as possible. And again, if you look at this off-board shot, you can see I'm like pixels away from this being an invalid lap. You want to use as much of the tarmac as is available through this corner, because if you end up trying to go down the hill sideways, that's how you end up spinning. So the goal here is to make this corner as much of a straight line as possible. Obviously, that's the goal with just about every corner, but especially with this corner. As you're coming over the crest, you can kind of see there's a person, this is a really dumb reference, but there's a person holding a green flag right now, directly in front of us. So if you just point your car towards that person holding the green flag, you're going to be aiming at the apex of the second part of the corner. The exit here is a huge deal. It's a big part of finding lap time. If you're finding it difficult to get on the gas early and keep the car stable, then try short shifting as you start going down the hill. So again, I get over this crest, and as I get towards the apex, I'm shifting into second. As the car kind of lands on the surface of the track, if it's got a lot of torque, as it's bouncing, it's very easy for that car to get unsettled. So just being in second gear helps stabilize that a bit. And again, cutting the track as much as possible. If we look at the offboard, you can see, again, I'm pixels away from that not being a valid lap. Now it's turn 9, and honestly, there's a lot of challenging corners through this track, but this is the one that took me the longest to learn how to do well. So the key to this corner is that the turn-in point is probably way earlier than you actually think it is. It's hard to judge when you are in a sim how much elevation change there is, but there's a huge elevation drop as you're doing this corner. While it feels like you're turning in at the right point, what's actually happening is you're overslowing the car because you're turning too late. So if this was flat, where you feel like you're turning the car, is probably correct. But because it's not, because it's such a big downhill drop, you actually have to turn in quite a bit earlier than you think. So yeah, opening up the corner too much is probably costing you more time than turning in early. The easy way to do that is to slowly get off the gas as you're approaching the corner. So you can see slowly lifting off. Once the car is kind of settled, the asphalt begins to flatten out again. Get fully back on the gas. So you can see I'm just about where the curb on the inside is beginning, and I'm already flat. So that's the goal here, is turn in earlier. Try not to carry speed down that hill, because it's just going to end up pushing you wide. If you take the hill easy, control your speed going down there, you can get on that gas a lot earlier and get a really, really good exit through this part of the track. This is the corner that I end up finding the most time at, because it's so easy to get wrong. It's so easy to forget how early you have to turn in, that whenever I do it properly, I end up finding like 3/10, 2/10, 3/10 over the laps where I haven't done it properly. Into turn 10, this is another corner where you have to be very precise. Braking zone, once again, is right where the skid marks kind of begin on the track, between the 1 and 2 boards. You do need to brake quite a little bit, but again, the banking is a bit deceptive. You don't realize how intense the banking is, so you don't need to trail brake all the way into the corner. You can just kind of lift and let the car roll, and then get back on the gas as soon as possible. And again, on exit, you want to use all the road. So you can see I'm going all the way out onto the concrete on the left-hand side. And finally into turn 11, this is probably my weakest corner on the entire lap. But what you want to do is brake a little bit earlier than the number 2, hold it to the right for as long as possible, basically right up until the end of that curbing. You can see I turned in a little bit earlier than I would have wanted to on this lap. But the goal here is to try and be on the gas by the time you're at the apex. So again, similar to a lot of these turns, the goal here is to just get on the gas as soon as is humanly possible. So at this point, you can see I'm fully alongside the sausage curb and trying desperately to get the car to rotate. Normally at this point, you want to be getting on that gas completely. And then use all the track on the right. Obviously, don't run onto the gravel, but as long as you're staying on the green stuff, the lap should be valid. So use all the exit, get on the gas as quickly as you possibly can to get your run up to the line. So what I'm going to do now is just play the entire lap. I'm going to play the recording of when I actually did this lap so you can actually see my inputs. You can see what the track looked like, how the traction control was kicking in, so on and so forth. So here's the lap.
Well done, mate. The fastest step so far.
So hopefully this helps if you are doing any racing around this track anytime soon. It's a really, really enjoyable track. I myself am a big fan of tracks with fast turns. And this is just a classic case of fast to medium speed corners. So I really am a big fan. If you get this track right, it's one of the most satisfying tracks to drive. So hopefully this helps, and I will be trying to put out more of these in the future.